Welcome back to Horror Recaps. In a few seconds, you're going to listen to a frightening tale narrated by me. Fear awaits you. Watch out and take care. At night, Harley Williams, wearing an elephant-like costume, enters the living room and stands near his mom Beth Williams, who's sleeping on the couch. Beth suddenly wakes up and gets frightened upon seeing the elephant-like figure. She screams out, and Harley screams back as well. She turns on the light and Harley takes off the elephant mask. Beth asks why he's still awake at this time of the night, and Harley says he just can't go to sleep because he's too excited. Beth tells him it's not his birthday yet, but it's past midnight, Harley says. Beth finally admits it's his birthday, but they've not started to celebrate it yet. She leads Harley into his room and kisses him on the forehead before leaving the room. She enters her older son Austin's room and confronts him about returning to the house late at night. Austin tells her that he's 19 and doesn't necessarily have to be home by midnight. But Beth tells Austin that she worries about him, and she wants to be sure he's safe before she goes to bed. Austin pleads with her not to tell his stepdad Mitch Williams. Beth agrees and then asks Austin to make sure he cooperates so that Harley's birthday celebration can turn out well. For Harley's birthday, his parents have a surprise for him. They plan to go to Taft Studios to see a live taping of the Banana Split Show, Harley's favorite children's TV show featuring 4 animatronic characters: Fleagle, Bingo, Drooper, and Snorky. By morning, Beth gets informed via a phone call that Harley's friend Duncan has the flu, which means he won't be able to come with them to the studio. Beth informs her spouse Mitch about Duncan's condition, and Mitch asks if Harley doesn't have any other friends that could possibly be invited. Beth tells him that Duncan is the only one Harley plays with. Mitch suggests they have to invite someone else, and Beth tells him most kids of Harley's age are really not interested in the show. Mitch then calls the show stupid. But for Beth, nothing will stop them from going to the live taping of the show. Meanwhile, Harley is in the living room, dancing alongside the show's characters. Beth quickly makes an arrangement for another of Harley's classmates, Zoe, to join them. Austin sneaks into Mitch's room, pulls his bedside drawer open and takes some money out of it. Mitch enters the room and asks Austin what he's doing, and Austin shows him a sock and tells him he is looking for the other sock. He insists he wasn't stealing money from Mitch. Later, Austin presents a wand to Harley as a birthday gift. Harley thinks it's just a small wand and really isn't excited at first, but as soon as he learns that the wand can increase in size when a particular button is pressed, he becomes palpably happier and thanks his brother Austin for the gift. Harley gets even more excited when his parents reveal that they are going to see a live taping of the Banana Split Show. At Taft Studio, there are many other excited fans of the show, including a young couple, Thad and Poppy. There is Jonathan, a middle-aged man who came with his daughter Parker, an aspiring performer. And then there is Paige, the show hostess, and her assistant Doug. Cell phones are not allowed into the hall, so Paige goes around collecting the phones of the visitors before letting them go in. Meanwhile, Harley sees the 4 members of the Banana Splits group driving in and excitedly runs into the road. He nearly gets run over by them, but thankfully the vehicle is brought to a halt just in time to avoid the accident. Paige gets to Austin, and just before Austin hands his phone to her, Austin requests for Paige's number, and the next second he's apologizing to Paige when she appears not to be interested. While the show is getting ready, Andy, who is the studio's new vice president of programming, informs the show producer Rebecca that the Banana Split Show does not represent his vision for the network, hence he's going to cancel the show. He calls it old and stupid, and tells Rebecca that today's show is going to be the last. Soon the audience is seated in the hall waiting for the taping to commence. Paige goes on stage and tells the audience to check the back of their tickets. If it has a star, it means they'll have to wait after the show and meet the Banana Splits, as well as Stevie, who's also a part of the show. Harley is saddened when he finds out there is no star on the back of his ticket. Soon, the show starts and the animatronic characters all appear on stage, except for Drooper, which is undergoing some software updates. Mitch leaves the hall, saying he wants to check for Austin, who had left the hall earlier, informing his mom and Mitch that he's going to the bathroom. Backstage, Paige goes to check on Stevie, who is expected to be part of the next course in the live taping. She finds Stevie drunk instead, and while she's trying to see what she can do about Stevie's state, Austin walks in, and Stevie forces them out of the office and shuts the door. Austin then explains to Paige that his brother Harley is a great fan of the show, but they didn't get a star on the back of their tickets. Is there any way she could help? Paige promises Austin she'll see what she can do about it and tells him they should just hang around after the show. Stevie overhears Andy on the phone talking about how he has cancelled the Banana Splits show. And right after the call, Andy gets kidnapped by Bingo. During another part of the show, drunk Stevie informs Drooper that this might just be their last show. The show finally comes to an end, and Paige reminds those who have a star on the back of their ticket to stay behind to see the banana splits. Others are expected to leave. Thad, Poppy, Jonathan and his daughter Parker are some of the lucky ones with a star on their tickets. On their way out, Paige approaches the Williams family and tells them to come with her to see the splits. Backstage, Stevie mocks the 4 splits because their show has been cancelled. Drooper however follows Stevie into the other part of the room and eliminates him by thrusting a giant lollipop into his mouth and down his throat. Beth tells Austin to stay with Harley and Zoe while she checks on Mitch. Meanwhile, the lucky fans are excited to spend some time with the banana splits, taking pictures with them. Jonathan wants his daughter to perform for the producer, so the producer can see how talented the girl is. But when Paige doesn't want to take them to Rebecca, Jonathan leaves with his daughter, trying to find the producer on their own. Paige runs after Jonathan in an attempt to stop them from getting into the studio. While Paige is away, Thad and Poppy go in to explore the studio. Harley and Zoe go closer and introduce themselves to the banana splits. Meanwhile, Beth somehow grabs hold of Mitch's phone and figures out that Mitch has been cheating on her with his office assistant Kara. Austin appears and confronts Mitch for not being a good man and husband to Beth. In the end, Mitch only walks away, unapologetic about what has happened. Jonathan gets to Rebecca's office to show her his talented daughter. But Rebecca tells them she's not interested in her talent. Besides, the show has been cancelled by Andy. Jonathan then leaves with his daughter, this time trying to find Andy. Meanwhile, while exploring the studio, Thad proposes to Poppy while live streaming, and she accepts his proposal. Then Flegel arrives and forcefully takes the phone from Thad. He then eliminates Thad by cutting him into 2 with a saw, while Poppy watches and cries helplessly. Flegel then meets Harley and Zoe wandering around the studio. The kids ask Flegel to take them to Snorky, Harley's favorite character, and Flegel nods in agreement. Jonathan finally arrives at Andy's office, but doesn't meet Andy in the office. Instead, he gets his face burnt by Drooper, and his daughter screams and tries to run away, but she meets Bingo who abducts and locks her up in the workshop. Outside, Mitch continues receiving photos from Kara, until he's chased and run over by Snorky. Beth and Austin soon return to where they left Harley and Zoe, but the kids are no longer there, and Beth gets really worried. Austin tries to convince her that they are safe, and nothing is going to happen to the kids. But Beth is still worried. Jonathan manages to get himself outside, collapses onto the ground and announces that he was attacked by one of the banana splits. Rebecca instructs Paige to call 911, but the telephone isn't working, and Paige discovers that all the smartphones have been destroyed. Meanwhile, Flegel locks Harley and Zoe in the workshop with Parker. In their search for Harley, Austin gets captured by Bingo, but Beth intervenes and pushes Bingo down from a height, freeing her son. They then meet Poppy still squatting next to Thad's dead body and holding his hand. Beth sympathizes with Poppy for her loss and tells her she's looking for her son Harley and his friend Zoe. Poppy tells them that Flegel took the kids, and she doesn't really know where Flegel took them to. Beth then manages to convince Poppy to come with them. The trapped kids manage to escape, and when Carl, the creator of the banana splits, tries to stop them from leaving, Harley hits him in the head with a piece of metal and the kids lock up Carl in the workshop. Rebecca and Jonathan are forced to participate in the sloppy time course, during which the 2 are eliminated by Drooper and Flegel. For Jonathan, he's stabbed in the back with a key, and Rebecca gets hit in the head with a hammer. While trying to find their way out of the studio, Harley, Zoe, and Parker meet Snorky, who is still much friendlier than the other banana splits, and convinces it to help them find their way out. Snorky stretches its hand and holds Harley, and the 2 girls follow behind. Beth, Austin, Paige and Poppy meet Carl in the workshop and try to find out from him how they can stop the banana splits, but Carl tells them that the banana splits can't be stopped because the show is in their programming and the show must go on. Poppy stays behind while Beth, Austin and Paige continue their search for the missing kids. Poppy puts on a costume meant for Hootie, the 5th banana split Carl was trying to create. She attacks and eliminates Carl. Beth, Austin and Paige soon realize that most of the adults who came to see the taping have been eliminated. Then they discover some trapped kids sitting and watching the banana splits perform some gut-wrenching acts. Snorky then arrives with Harley, Zoe and Parker and chains them with the other kids. Harley appeals to Snorky, and Snorky quietly hands the key to him. Harley unlocks the chain and frees himself and the other kids. Beth asks Austin and Paige to take the kids out of the studio. Then she goes on to attack Flegel. Drooper grabs her neck, pulls her up and throws her to the floor. Austin then intervenes, eliminating Flegel. But they are soon attacked by Drooper, who tries to strangle Beth. Harley shows up and throws his wand to Beth, and with that, Beth stabs and eliminates Drooper. As they are leaving the studio, Beth, Harley and Austin meet Snorky and Bingo fighting. The two characters eliminate themselves. Just before Snorky passes out, Harley goes close to it and tells it that it will always be his favorite banana split. Outside the studio, there are now several police cars and emergency workers scattered across. Again, Austin requests for Paige's number, and this time Paige starts to give him a smooch. Mitch then shows up, tells Beth he was hit by a car, and that he has now realized how much he loves and wants to be with her. Beth punches him in the head and says she wants a divorce. As the multiple ambulance vehicles drive out of the studio, Mitch runs after the vehicles, screaming that he's injured. And while standing in the road, he gets run over by Poppy. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.